Hello and welcome to the National Sports Center in Blaine, Minnesota, where today the 1998 championship matchup in the College National Ultimate Tournament features a couple of California teams, and they are University of California, Santa Barbara, the two-time defending national champions in the college ranks, and Stanford University. And I'm Dan Webster, joined with me by Jason Seidler, and he's part of the Black Tide crew of UC alumni. He's going to help me out here regarding commentary and stuff. And we're already into this game here, Jason, where it's a 2-0 score.
It's 2-0 right now. The Black Tide came out on offense, scored the initial point. On the second point of the game, Stanford turned it over early. The Black Tide capitalized on the goal line, and once again have taken the defense, are beginning on their own goal line, and have the 70-yard march.
The 70, and we term it that way basically because for Stanford, they just kind of threw it downfield almost as either a Hail Mary pass or a type of punt, daring UCSB to try and march it upfield.
Exactly. It seems like they're playing a type of offense that plays a little conservative with the wind, and it's basically called the huck and play D. And their goal idea is to make sure they do not turn it over near their own goal line.
Now, in terms of UCSB right now, it seems like they're really moving the disc across the field very well until they can get something going like here.
Yeah.
But this, as we know zones, this is sort of an ill-advised thing. You like to try and move it up unless you know you've got that pass.
Absolutely. The Black Tide relies on a lot of hard running and a lot of very fast cuts. Their offense is based on movement, and as much as possible, they do not want to hold the disc for more than a few seconds each.
Now, these two teams have faced each other about 5 or 6 times this season, haven't they?
Well, actually, this season they've matched up 3 times in tournaments, and at this point, Stanford is holding the lead at 2-1. As a matter of fact, earlier when the season started, Stanford had won the Santa Barbara tournament. And then to follow up a month and a half later, Santa Barbara went and won the Stanford tournament.
Oh, my gosh.
And then a month later at the April Fools, a club tournament, Stanford happened to win the next game. So they are, at this point, ahead. These guys are true rivals.
The April Fools tournament, that was where?
That was up in Santa Cruz, California.
Okay. And the disc, they're keeping that disc nice and low in this contest.
Right now, Santa Barbara's playing a standard zone. Stanford has some of their top handlers back. Number 23, Mike Payne, one of the leaders of Stanford, definitely probably the best throws on all of Stanford's team. To his side and now receiving the disc is Justin Deng. Justin is also an excellent player with very solid deep throws. The two of them seem to be playing with it right now as the Santa Barbara Cup is awfully large with a 6'6" middle and 2 very large points on the side.
That's the one thing I've noticed. I mean, I've seen a lot of teams where a lot of the handlers are smaller and they're quick cut and dash guys, and yet right here we've got a lot of tall guys and they're going over the top.
Yep. We just had a hammer thrown into the goal, and it looks like we got a turnover call or out of bounds.
Out of bounds is being called.
Looks like it was out of bounds, and once again it's Santa Barbara's disc. Santa Barbara puts it up, a very deep throw, crossing left field. Adam Glimmy and Alex making a bid. Santa Barbara with an outstanding grab. Adam Glimmy, third-year player from UCSB, to Dan Wachter, to Greg Husak, known as Hollywood. On the goal, Dan Wachter now, and goal!
Oh.
There is a call. We will definitely see calls now and then in this game. Many goals are going to be celebrated prematurely.
How hotly contested is this rivalry between you two clubs?
This is about the hottest rivalry going. Both of these teams in some ways respect each other and in the same ways despise each other.
Okay.
It's definitely a bitter rival, but it's just excellent athletes on both teams, and it's definitely set to be one of the great national championship finals.
And just like that, a pass.
And Santa Barbara takes a 3-0 lead on Stanford Blood.
And that was just all it was just a quick 2-foot hitter. It
looks as if Stanford has called their first time out of the game. This is a strong showing early on here. But look for Stanford to never quit, and they are sure to come on back and have a run of their own.
Well, being one, as part of, a team of Santa Barbara as well as Stanford, both of you from California area, I mean, how does it feel to come to a place like Minnesota and play for the national title?
Well, it's not such a bad thing. Fortunately, here the Sports Center in Blaine has excellent facilities, and the fields, it's as many fields as you've seen anywhere, and it really adds a lot to nationals to have all the teams playing around each other. Santa Barbara just pulled the disc, and it looks like
I don't know if it was.
it looks like it landed in bounds and rolled out.
Yeah.
So they will bring it to the front of the goal line, walking it up to the point where it went out. Santa Barbara is set up in a standard zone. And as soon as Stanford taps it in, the game will begin at this point.
So 3-0 is our score. UCSB up on Stanford.
That's Mike Payne with the disc right now, swinging it to, I cannot see. That was swinging it to Dan Contreras, then swinging it back across the field.
They're definitely moving the disc along pretty well. I mean, you brought up the point that there's no non-athletes out here in this contest.
Every one of these guys have earned to be in this game, and they have the right to be playing here, and they are all excellent athletes. Right now, they're still in a zone. Stanford's had about 10 passes. Mike Payne is on the disc right now. Had a nice break to Dan Contreras. Dan with the disc. Ben Smith on the mark. Santa Barbara back in the zone.
Now, I've noticed there isn't really that many cuts going on directly right at the handler. They're trying to make anywhere from 10 to 20-yard passes.
Okay, we just had a very low pass that was picked up off the ground from Dan, and it was in fact called up from the observers. The game continues. That's Mike Payne again with the disc. Dan and Mike seem to be playing around a little together. They definitely work well together. The Black Tide has a very nimble cup in right now. That's Alex with the disc at the moment.
Alex Hill?
That's Alex Young, I believe.
Or Alex Young,
yes.
Excuse me, yes. Saw him against a couple of teams on Saturday's action, and this guy knows how to block some shots on defense, and
yes.
He seems to find his holes on offense as well.
He is definitely one of their all-star defensive players. Got some great speed.
And
there he is again, helping move the offense. Stanford being very patient here. Definitely not too eager, although down 3.
And a foul is called. And so the disc will go back to Rob Nail.
Yes.
He had a couple of players that seemed like they just kind of bounced off of him, and there was like a clux of people that congregated when he got that disc.
Yes. Looks like a foul was called. It's not being contested. The count will go back to 0. And as soon as Stanford and Santa Barbara settle this, the disc will be in. Disc is now in. Right now we have number 44, Rob Nail with the disc. He just gave it up to Mike Payne. Mike holding position in the hammer, looking for the very nice backhand swing across the field to Dan Contreras. And Dan with the forehand into the end zone. Oh,
just a bit
nice
long.
D.
Right around our camera guy in the end zone.
Great D here from the rookie, Ernie Albin from UCSB's Black Tide. A nice bid by Alex in the goal, and UCSB has the disc on the goal line.
And now he's just going to walk it up. One of the things that a lot of the audience members, at least in our Twin Cities area, that don't know about when they play Ultimate, is that at any point in time, as that guy's walking it up, he can start play.
Absolutely. It's one of the few rules in Ultimate that's not widely known about.
Yeah.
And sometimes very veteran teams will use that to their advantage. Right now, James Studeris is on the disc with a pass, a little bit high over Adam Glimmy's head. And the Tide is on defense again. We're sticking with zone right now. James Studeris trapping Mike Payne on the disc. Very nice grab by number 44, Rob Nail, excuse me. Disc back to Mike Payne. Mike Payne making some fakes, looking for it. Excellent forehand through to Alex. Swinging across to Dan. Dan making some fakes. Back in the zone.
And there's Hill, or Young, excuse me.
Alex and Mike seem to be running the offense right now for Stanford and doing a really good job at it. And the hammer is just put up.
That's a pretty good hammer, too, considering that you got a 20-mile-an-hour gust coming sideways at it.
That is Stanford's first score. That was Mike Payne to, I did not catch the receiver.
There we go, we got a replay. We might have an opportunity here. Payne with the hammer.
Looks like Mike Payne to Scott Johnston.
Yep, Johnston, one of the deeps. So broke through. That's such a tough move to defend, too. If you're in the deep and you're thinking you're forcing a guy to the forehand side, suddenly the guy breaks to a backhand and, you know, he's already got a first step on you. So we've got a score of 3-1. Here in the early goings of this championship matchup between the University of California, Santa Barbara and Stanford.
Justin Dang with the pull. That's Ben Smith, James Studeris. Looks like Stanford's bringing on the zone. Dan Wachter now up to Greg Tedeschi. Greg Tedeschi making fakes. Stanford on the zone. Back to Dan Wachter, known as Thunder Dan. Up, very nice scoober to Hollywood, one of the captains of the Black Tide. Excellent, excellent no-look throw to Greg Tedeschi. Greg Tedeschi giving it up to James Studeris. Stanford zone now recovering, reset up. Swung out to Hollywood. Hollywood to Greg Tedeschi. Greg Tedeschi back to Hollywood. Now trapped in the corner of the goal.
Count's getting high now.
And they swing it across. Dan Wachter to Ben Smith, to other co-captain Mike Hall. Mike Hall fouled, but gets the throw off. A nice throw completed to Ben Smith. Ben Smith to James Studeris. James with a nice lefty drop back to Dan Wachter, who gives it right back. James back to Dan. Dan to Ben. Ben up to Mike Hall. Mike Hall doing a good job. Stanford now has set their trap, and a foul's been called.
They've moved it around side to side. UCSB has. Stanford seems that if they can get them to not throw it within about the first 2 or 3 on the count, suddenly they've got a whole contingent of help that is waiting to really back them up.
There's Stanford's trap zone. Forced an errant pass by co-captain Mike Hall. And a very nice floating deep pass was just put out.
And Peter Jewett on the big dive in the back of the end zone is able to pull down that pass and bring this score to a 4-2 mark.
Excellent grab.
You know, at the onset of that throw, I didn't think Peter was going to be able to muster it up right there, but
it just floated up there a little bit and dropped right down to his hands.
So
an excellent layout.
So with that, a 4-2 score. There it is. Oh, what a view our camera people had with that.
Excellent.
So had a nice layout right into your front living room. 4-2 is the score. As Stanford is pulled within 2. UC Santa Barbara still on top. We are 4-2 here at the National Sports Center in Blaine. The Black Tide of UC Santa Barbara with the lead, and they'll be accepting it, going downwind.
Pulled by Mike Payne, received by Ben Smith. To James Studeris. Ben Smith holds onto it. To Dan Wachter. Dan. Dan Wachter to Hollywood. Hollywood putting it up. Oh, right off Ben Smith's fingertips.
Smith flips off the cap to try and allow himself not to have that cap in his way as he's making the catch. The afternoon wind is picking up a little bit as the zone is being thrown on by Santa Barbara.
Santa Barbara runs a standard zone with 3 men surrounding the disc.
No what I've noticed too is that in that zone, generally the taller players are the ones that are doing the marking there. Is that just a matter of transition help that they assume the deep position on the offense then?
Santa Barbara really looks to put the pressure on the thrower in this situation. They'd rather not bring it to the point where you really have to make a great bid in the end zone.
Okay.
They'd rather make the thrower force up a really nice throw. So we had a turnover there on the hammer. Dan Wachter to Mike Hall to Tommy Burfeen. Tommy swings it back to Mike Hall.
And yes.
Goal!
Right there on the sideline.
Unbelievable backup by James Studeris, coming from nowhere.
Yep.
Laying it out, dragging his feet, and called in from the observer.
I mean, that pass was initially intended to someone else, and then suddenly out of the backside, there comes the help.
It's a great heads-up play.
Here it is.
Oh! Woo.
Jason just saw the replay. Dan Webster along with Jason Seidler, and scores 4-2 right now? Okay,
yes.
So we're told the score is 4-2 right now.
We were off by 1 earlier. Sorry about that.
Oh, we started coverage here just a little late.
Yep.
You know.
Now we're on track thanks to Callahan Award winner. Jim Regitz is a fifth-year player with excellent throws, great defensive ability, and just incredible spirit for men's ultimate. Mike Payne with the disc. Once again, working with Dan Contreras, swinging it across. Back to Dan Contreras. Oh! There is a slight overthrow. Dan Contreras couldn't quite get to it. UCSB will have the disc on their goal line, looking to capitalize.
Adrian James, a senior, was looking to make that toss there.
Mike Hall picks up the disc here. UCSB offense is beginning with the oh-so popular stack, and the disc is now in. Goal. We had Mike Hall dumping it back to Greg Hollywood Husak to a quick put into Jim Regitz, the man who started it all off. And UCSB takes a 5-2 lead.
You'd almost think that if the initial cut from the stack is not going to be there, just dump and have a break mark right off of that.
Once again, here on the replay, we have Mike Hall looking. Taking the dump back to Hollywood. Very quick pass to Jim Regitz. Once again, we have the point start here. Jim Regitz again with the big pull that bladed down and rolled out the back of the end zone. A blading throw is one that is where the disc is more vertical than horizontal when it flies. Mike Payne on the disc. UCSB with his zone defense. Once again, Mike with a very nice break to start the point off.
Scott Johnston with the toss.
Over to Omar. Omar drops it back to Mike Payne. Mike Payne with a nice fake. Mike Payne still holding the disc and dumps it back to Rob. Rob making a fake, passes it over to Mike Payne again. Mike Payne looking around, checking out the scene, checking his options. Christian with a nice pass.
To Johnston.
Johnson now making fakes, passes it back to Payne. Payne to Dan Nail. Another nice grab by Johnston. Johnston once again dumps it to Mike Payne.
I mean, as much as you'd like to hit your pop-ins right there, it almost seems equally as important to get it to Payne right there in the middle as a handler.
Absolutely. I think both these teams are figuring it out that you're going to have a lot more difficult time if you're trapped on the sideline. Many more options starting from the middle of the field. That's Christian with the disc right now. Nice break, drops it back to Dan. James Studeris on the mark. Mike Payne with the disc. Quick pass through to Omar. Omar takes a look upfield, but decides to drop it back to Mike Payne. Mike looks like he wants to do something with it. Instead passes it over to Dan, who passes it right back. Swings it across to Justin Deng. Justin back to Mike. And once again, Mike Payne with another very nice hammer into Christian. Looked like a very familiar play.
Looks like one that was done a couple points ago.
Yes.
So with Stanford is able to use the blade again.
Very patient offense from Stanford here that ends in a perfectly thrown hammer.
What people need to realize with a hammer toss, especially with a wind like this, is the reason why the wind's not catching that disc and blowing it all over is that Mike Payne is throwing a lot of spin within that hammer toss.
Definitely. And those hammers aren't coming slow.
5-3 is our mark. Stanford has come back here a little bit after being down 3-0.
And play will resume shortly. Looks like they've come to a compromise. And Mr. Whitaker is about to tap the disc in. The disc is now in. And we got a goal.
Nice fade.
Jim Regetz to Hollywood. Then excellent cut. Came from the back up to the cone. Did a little 180-degree turn, and Jim just had it there waiting for him.
Okay. Hollywood there, he made a dart towards right at the end line there, and then he just buckled back. And then
seemed to hit the brakes, and the Stanford guy flew right by.
Yeah. And here's the play. I've never seen anyone spike their head with the disc.
I think it's a nice way of saying we don't mean to hurt anyone but ourselves, and this is just meant to psych us up. It's nothing personal against the other team.
So Santa Barbara jumps on again and doubles up on Stanford. 6-3 is the score at this particular time. And just to let you know about Santa Barbara, they were the Pool B champions with a 5-0 record. Back at the National Sports Center, Dan Webster and Jason Seidler. Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. Right here. Here at the National Sports Center, championship game of the Men's College Championships for 1998. California, Santa Barbara 6, Stanford 3. You see it there. Stanford knocking on the door on an upwinder.
Right now we have Omar with the disc. James Studeris on the mark. Of course, it is dumped back to Mike Payne. Mike Payne with the disc. Greg Tedeschi on the mark. We have cuts coming from the front. We have a high floating disc. Ooh. We had decent collision here. It was excellent spirit from both teams. A little bit of a swilly throw, as we call them sometimes.
Yeah, that one hung.
Kind of seemed up for grabs, and due to that, all three of the players collided with each other. And they all, thus far, have displayed good spirit. Looks like Mike Payne breaks the mark, puts it high, but it floats up, and that's very close. The Stanford player definitely had position on UCSB, and he certainly had to go through the man to get his hand on it. So, looks like things are settled.
Back from about 10 yards out, Mike Payne. If there is any type of quarterback on a team, so far Mike Payne seems to be the dominant figure in that role for his club.
They definitely rely on him for his offensive skills, and for good reason. And once again, Mike getting open for the disc. Greg Tedeschi on the mark. Mike Payne to Justin Deng. And goal Stanford.
Stanford puts that in, and Spider-Woman comes out and joins them.
Looks like the Stanford women are also jumping on the field to show a little support, trying to rally their men up. And a very quick pass, Mike Payne. Mike Payne with the big fake. Justin Deng to the goal. UCSB didn't see it until it was too late. Nice work.
Well, that's one of the things where the defender, he's more or less eyeing who he's defending rather than the disc thrower. I mean, he's sort of in this caught in between land.
Yep.
You know, is the guy going to cut in, make a move there, or go out?
And it seemed as if in a game like this, there's usually quite a bit of noise around, and typically you rely on your teammates to give you the up calls, to let you know that disc is coming. And in a case like this, sometimes it's very difficult to hear things.
So with that, the score 6-4, Santa Barbara up on Stanford, but Stanford coming back there with that point.
Looks like Stanford is set to pull. Mike Payne with the disc, looking for a big windup, has his little patented 360 spin, puts up a very nice high floating pull. And Mike Hall on the disc to James Studeris. James Studeris to Jim Regetz. Jim Regetz with a wide open man in the end zone. Dan Wachter. An unbelievable play. It seemed like Stanford wasn't quite ready for that.
And considering that it was all against the wind. I mean, if people look at our screen from our high camera, the wind is actually about 20 miles an hour from the lower right to the upper left, and yet the disc is fighting through all of these.
Here we have Jim Regetz with a great grab, immediately puts up the forehand. Somehow Thunder Dan Wachter gets himself 20 yards open and pulls the disc down for Santa Barbara, 7-4 lead.
There you have it.
And the black tide comes from these natural tar deposits that are in the ocean in Santa Barbara. Once you've been there, you will know. So UCSB with the pool, Mike Payne with the disc once again. And Stanford University, once again, up to Alex. Alex with the disc, looking upfield. Has his teammate, John, open. John with the disc, making fakes, looking downfield. John elects for the dump, back to Christian. Looks like quite a bit of confusion. Scott with the disc, covered by rookie extraordinaire Ernie Aubin of UCSB. And it looks like we have a call.
Now, regarding these two schools and the players that are involved, I mean, how many of these players have had significant careers, say, in the high school ranks entering college?
Well, unfortunately, in California, we don't quite have the high school ultimate league that they have on the East Coast yet.
Okay.
High school ultimate is a very new thing on the West Coast, and although it is out there, and it's being, in some states, it's growing, it's just now picking up. So most of the players that UCSB picks up, are already sophomores and juniors in college.
Wow.
We have a very nice deep throw.
Right on the money. Scott Johnston pulls that down near the back of the end zone.
And I believe it was Mike Payne who put it to him.
One of the many types of backhand. We get a chance to see that one.
It's a swing out to none other than Mike Payne, who sets his sights, pivots out.
And lets it fly.
Beautifully straight backhand. Puts it where only his man can get it. And Stanford scores, closing the gap back to 2. We fortunately have some beautiful weather today. High winds and quite a change from yesterday.
Yeah, the night before our broadcast here at this time, we had 85-mile-an-hour winds, and in the Twin Cities area, much of the Twin Cities, even at this point in time, is without power because of the lightning and the thunder and the wind that brought down so much of the Twin Cities. But you know, at least we don't have earthquakes.
It's good to have nationals here. Okay, we had Mike Payne pull the disc. Comes down, James Studeris, disc in hand. James is looking. He swings it across to Mike Hall. Mike Hall with the disc. Looks like Stanford is now running a man defense. UCSB with the disc. Looks like a little over Husak's head, and a great follow-up by Jamie Hussein. Jamie swings it back across to Jim Regetz. Jim Regetz looking for his options here. Great swing across to Greg Tedeschi. Greg Tedeschi, short flop to the big man, Tommy Burfeen, known as Tommy Boy. Swings across to Hollywood. Quick pass to James Studeris. James with the disc. James has a big windup, lets it go. Looks like we got a big man there. And an excellent defensive play by Dan.
Eisenberg.
There you go, thank you.
Eisenberg looked like he just, all it was he just got position at the right point in time.
He definitely had the inside position. Dan's a very athletic player for Stanford, has great vertical leap, as well as some pretty decent layouts. And there he just displayed it by getting the D on a 6'6" player from UCSB, although he had position there. And Dan starts off and grabs the disc right out. UCSB is forcing flick at the moment. Dan to Wally. Wally up to Scott. Scott is checking the disc at the moment. It seems as if maybe the disc has been tacoed. That basically means that the disc could be out of perfect form, bent or tweaked out a little bit, if you may. And a new disc is thrown on the field.
You'd almost think with the way the players, you know, have to cradle discs and stuff on a wind and then shield off other players' bodies and stuff, that doesn't happen more often. It's only happened just this one time so far in this game.
There we had a quick, tight rocket inside-out forehand from Scott Johnston, and unfortunately it was dropped from the Stanford player. Whoa! Ooh,
Christian on behind.
Kind of a dangerous layout there. A little late, but got to commend him for his effort there. And a great grab from UCSB. Once again, second-year standout, Jamie Hussein. Jamie with a quick swing to Greg Tedeschi, marked by Mike Payne. Greg with a quick flip to UCSB. UCSB seems to be content with these short little passes right now. They're keeping control of the disc. They're moving it. And looks like they're just waiting to get the upfielder. A very nice grab from Mike Hall, a great layout bid from Wally. Once again, Jamie with the disc. Seems to get open at will. That was Greg Tedeschi to Tommy. We have Mike Payne covering. Dan following up. To Greg Husak. To James Studeris.
And you'd almost think against the wind to have a mismatch. They had two players for UCSB down there on basically just one defender. And that's just, you know, that's overplaying the handlers and not...
Here we're going to catch a shot of Captain Hollywood to a throw on the money to James Studeris, captain from last year. James and Hollywood have been playing together now for 3 years, almost 4 now, and they certainly know each other. They read each other very well and play to each other's strong suits.
There you see the score, 8-5, California Santa Barbara, resuming its 3-point lead.
Kenny.
Yeah, they got Alex Young now assuming the role where Pang was.
Kenny's making his first appearance in the game here. Stanford with the disc. Ernie Albin on the mark, and we have a injury or collision or foul.
Yeah, basically Rob Nail that time made a cut that forced the two Santa Barbara guys to inadvertently collide in with each other.
Ernie taps the disc in, and play resumes. Stanford with a very nice inside out, giving him a nice 20-yard gain. Alex with the disc. A short pass to Christian. Ben on the disc. Alex with the disc. Adam Glimmy on the mark.
And both observers call it in.
That's good.
You only need 1 foot down in ultimate, college or club. And here it is, there's Young.
Looks like a broken mark, and I couldn't quite tell, but he towed the line.
Yep, John Zalisk, a sophomore.
Great grab with very heads-up play.
So with that, the score becomes 8-6, I believe it is, as one of our many helpers.
Our scorekeeper extraordinaire. She, of course, was flown in especially for the tournament. And that's just a really big-time throw from a big-time player. Alex putting it in. Got a big pull here from Mike Payne. Mike Payne. Ben Smith picks it up to James Studeris. And Stanford is starting UCSB out in the back of their end zone. Nice swing to James. Ben with the disc.
This is a scenario where Santa Barbara has just not even come out of their own end zone quite yet.
Looks like they're just almost getting back to the front. A nice swing across to Thunder Dan. Back to Mike Hall, to Ben Smith. UCSB seems very patient about pulling it out. Ben with a very nice break, crossfield throw to Tommy. Tommy swings it across to James Studeris. James to Ben Smith. Covered by Justin Deng. A nice swing, great grab from Dan Wachter. Dan with a quick throw up to Mike Hall. Wally on the mark. Mike Hall pivoting, a lot of traffic. Mike Hall dumps it back to Dan. Dan with a little inside out to Adam Glimmy. Adam Glimmy with the goal to Tommy. It almost seemed
too easy.
They
that close.
They just move the disc so quick. It seems like Stanford, as soon as they're behind, they're just trying to catch up there.
Well, one thing that I noticed is that
we got the replay. Dan with the disc, a nice inside out, gets it up to his teammate, leaves Stanford on the wrong side of the mark, and he just, without even hesitating, almost a no-look backhand to a wide-open Tommy in the goal.
Well, one of the things that I noticed, and I remember Black Tide had a little problem with it to begin with, was that when the count got above 2 even, you know, it forced them to have to look around and search for something, and the backside help for Stanford was able to come across. Here, UCSB did not even allow the count to really even get beyond 1.
Never.
And it's tough for a defense to set up when it's constantly moving back or moving around.
Absolutely. Once you get a team running on their heels defensively, that's when you got them, and it's best to keep pushing at that point. So we're at 9-6. Hollywood pulling.
Now, how did he get the name Hollywood?
Well, you would just have to play with him to understand that one. We don't live too far away, and he's a pretty flashy guy.
Okay.
So here we go, Mike Payne with a really nice grab. And of course, putting up his hammer. Ooh, and it looks like it may have hit the ground.
There's an observer right behind him.
The players are discussing it amongst themselves right now, electing not to go to the observers right away. I think shows a lot of class, a lot of respect for each other.
And they got probably, I don't remember this observer's name, but
This is Vic over there.
Yeah, he's probably the most senior observer that we have out here.
Yes, Vic is the head observer. Vic pretty much trains and prepares everyone. Ooh,
that's
very,
tough.
very hard to tell.
There was a UCSB body going around right at that point of contact.
We'll let you decide.
I'm wondering if the truck can give us a replay once again on this. Here it comes, it looks like.
Well, in fact,
I don't know.
it's still difficult to tell. We've seen it twice now, and we are unsure. It's definitely a throw that could have gone either way. The disc stays where it's at. The players agree. No arguments there. No bad blood. And the disc is checked in again. Once again, Christian and Mike Payne with the disc, swinging it around. And Christian with a great break upfield. Little fake to Mike Payne, caught the cup off guard. Swinging it over to Rob. Rob with a little swing to Scott. Scott drops it back to Christian. Christian pops it right back to Scott. Scott to Christian. Christian looking to Rob. Scott really seems like he's making this offense move right now.
And a double team called, so that slows things up a little.
Looks like here we're seeing first time playing from Matt, a Stanford B-teamer from last year who just scored the disc.
That being Matt Broadus, a senior, and he comes in, makes a quick in and out move and catches it off the backhand. And we'll get a chance to look at that one.
We have Christian with a nice swing over to Mike Payne. Mike Payne, an excellent put right out where only his man could get it.
Now, it almost seemed that, I mean, the force, at least it looked, when we saw that replay, it looked like it was going backhand, but that's not the way it was set up.
No, at that point, most teams are looking to do what's called force middle once they're within about 10 to 15 yards of the goal. In a case like that, sometimes when the disc is in the middle of the field, it's really a player's judgment to decide which side of the field is it closer to and which way to direct the play towards. So basically starting from which middle of the field. In a case like that, Mike received the disc pretty close to midfield, and UCSB elected to keep the backhand force, and Mike capitalized on it.
Okay, here we are. Me, Dan Webster. I've got the hat on here from Minnesota. Jason with the Black Tide apparel here.
Showing support for my guys while not being able to speak about it.
So we want to let you know that Jason was here 2 years ago, and as part of the Santa Barbara club that won their first championship at that time against Carleton College of Minnesota. And, you know, wow.
There were two very different conditions for the Black Tide to win in. And this is the real test here. The game has resumed play. Stanford with a nice pull, rolls around the end zone, and James Studeris with the disc. Immediately we have a huge pull, a great downfield throw directly to receiver Adam Glimmy, who takes a moment here, puts it up, an incredible forehand throw to Jim Regitz, and UCSB capitalizes before you can blink an eye.
I mean, that was amazing design. He came around, before making the throw for the score, he came around and he already knew that the play was designed for him.
And here we have just an incredible leading forehand, turning his player right to the corner as the Black Tide plans it, trying to score their goals in the corners of each end zone.
Complete with a freeze frame on, yeah!
It's definitely great to see these guys excited, and they got all, you know, it seems like they're putting everything they got into these games.
10-7 is the score. Santa Barbara from California, leading Stanford of California.
This is, we had in the women's bracket, we had the Stanford women against the University of British Columbia women, and in the men's bracket, we had the two teams playing here. So it's, West Coast is making quite a statement about how they play Ultimate. I think the main advantage is the West Coast has one extra season every year where they can play outdoors. So Mike Payne here with the disc with UCSB's best defender, Hollywood, on him. Looks like they did that strategically to try to take him out of the game here. We've got Scott with the disc, covered by Adam Glimmy. Alex wide open with the disc. Greg Tedeschi now on the mark.
We got a poach going on. Taking it is Mike Laub. Mike Laub makes the throw, and it's ruled in. Making the catch is Scott Johnston.
Very nice throw, right to the corner. UCSB was a few steps behind, couldn't make up the distance.
You know, and many times in Ultimate, you see a lot of scores that occur right near the goal line and right near the middle of the field. But here, both these clubs are using the outer perimeters for their scores.
Here we'll get a little shot at this. Looks like a little fake backhand, no hesitation. And threads the forehand right where only he can get it. And that's the second time now Stanford scores within about 6 inches of the sidelines.
Now we got it at 10-7 here. Here at the National Sports Center, Dan Webster and Jason Seidler.
No, I believe that's 10-8 right now.
10-8 is the score, yeah. I don't think we... it's just what we need here is we need for our audience to know that the score is actually 10-8 right now, as we're sort of conversing with our truck right now as well, to make sure that they can give you that little white blurb of information. So, okay, now this tournament has gone on from a Friday through Sunday rotation, and you know, Friday night and Saturday night when you're not playing out on the field. What is it that the players like to do? Or
well, I'm not quite sure what a lot of the other teams do, but as far as UCSB goes, it's really a matter of taking care of business. UCSB comes here to do one thing only, and that's give their best shot at winning another national championship. So most nights UCSB goes out, has a nice big fun team dinner, followed up by a special team meeting that's held in a room in one of the hotels, and then it's pretty much to bed and get ready for the next day. So here we go, back in action. Stanford pulling, UCSB with the disc. It looks like we're going out of bounds.
That's really, I mean, in this contest, it's really one of the few errant throws that has ever occurred in this contest.
We've seen some incredible play thus far. And UCSB, once again, on playing defense. Looks like we have a man defense here.
Mike Payne with it. He'll do the overhand, and bingo.
Once again, 3 hammers, 3 scores.
How do you really know how to defend that? I mean, is that sort of, when I play, I see someone who has that capability of throwing that. You'd like to stick a hand and try and block that, but is that always just advisable to do?
Yeah, I mean, the majority of the time, it's a very unstoppable pass, and that's part of what makes it so deadly if you have it. And really what the only other team can do is you try to keep the disc out of that person's hands.
Yeah.
In Ultimate, you're definitely going to have players who have their throws, and they're going to get their throws, and they're going to get a bunch of them. So the best you can do is keep the disc away from their hands.
Homer Hattisman with the score on that occasion, pulling the score within 10-9. So, I mean, this game started off 3-0, and now it's just little by little creeping back on this scenario. Now, is that pretty uniform between these two teams, or is that just something in which the environment dictates, or the ability to handle the disc dictates?
Well, I think a lot of that's the environment here. What's going on are both teams are attempting to do what's called a scramble. They're basically setting up a risky D, putting that zone on them in the goal, hoping that they will actually turn it over, maybe with an errant pass or a quick drop, thus giving a huge advantage to the opposite team getting the disc up on the goal line. Why that's a risk is because often if you have a big throw over the top, you're going to leave someone isolated deep. So,
Santa Barbara disc. Oh, pick is called. Right in front of us here, we're seeing a disc flying back at us and no one going for it. We're thinking, wait a minute.
So a pick is called.
I want to let Jason know that here at the National Sports Center, since the last time he was here, the National Sports Center is putting up a new indoor facility, the largest continuous sheet of ice, indoor ice.
Wow.
In North America. Well, you know, we got that Mall of America thing going too, you know. We got to have some big stuff.
Okay, here we go. UCSB with the disc. Husak with a great throw. Tommy with a great catch. Tommy looks to dump back to Husak. Husak with the disc, swings it across to Tedeschi. Greg Tedeschi making fakes, looking for his man. To James Studeris. Looks like a pick was called. The disc stays where it's at. The pick was called while it was in the air. And James, nice throw to Tommy. Tommy picks it up off the ground, making some big fakes, very large man. Dumps it back to James once again. In many ways, James is a similar type of threat as Mike Payne is. James has a few more throws in his arsenal than Mike does, but both of them have very similar roles on their team.
Oh.
And we just saw a drop in the end zone, UCSB, right out of the hands of Greg Tedeschi.
It's one of those things where it looked like it hit, he had it in his hands, then his butt hit, and it shook him up, and then it popped right out.
So here we have UCSB setting up in the defense of their choice. Looks like they're going to stay in a man defense. The players are discussing something on the field right now. Greg Husak here with the disc. Stanford flies right by, puts a quick pass to his man. Oh, and just pops right out of his hands as he hits the ground.
That means Christian Dodge will take over right there in the corner.
Christian with the disc. Oh, and James Studeris steps right in and intercepts the pass meant for the Stanford player. And we have a goal, an incredible catch, towing the line by Hollywood. And now you're beginning to see why we call him Hollywood.
Well, yeah, I mean, people need to understand that this field is 40 yards wide, and with a body like that stretching it out, it suddenly becomes about 42, 43 yards wide.
Look at that, instant replay, an incredible grab once again, bouncing it off his head, just letting himself know how psyched he is.
Well, for some of the novice people that are out here that are see this action and they play Ultimate and they see, well, you know, they're spiking a disc. They want to realize that, yeah, they may be sort of spiking it, but they're not spiking it on the end. There's, you know, they're basically like throwing a hat down type of format.
Absolutely. There's one thing that you typically won't ever see from the UCSB guys is they will never direct a disc back at a Stanford or opposing team player after a goal has been scored.
Well, that's just not spirit of the game.
Exactly. And unfortunately, you will see that quite a bit in club and college Ultimate through some of the teams. But in the last few years, it definitely seems like college Ultimate's been on the upswing as far as spirit goes. And we're seeing a lot less of the taunting type of celebration and a lot more of the personal celebration.
What kind of backing do you get from the college in itself in Santa Barbara regarding, being able to fund trips and do?
Here we are at halftime.
Halftime is a score, and with Santa Barbara with that, yeah, we were so caught up in talking that we realized, oh my gosh, it's halftime here. 11-9 is the score. Dan Webster along with Jason Seidler. We're at the National Sports Center. This is the men's 1998 College National Champions. We'll be back with the second half after these.
Stay tuned.
It's day one of the College National Ultimate Championships. Ultimate is a sport that combines elements of football and basketball, but is obviously played with the Frisbee. 24 schools and about 500 participants from across the country are seeking titles in both men's and women's competition. Carleton has qualified both their men's and women's teams. Play continues through Sunday.
If you can fly a Frisbee in the winds we have today, you must be an ultimate Frisbee player. And speaking of ultimate, the college championships are being played this weekend at the National Sports Center in Blaine. 24 teams from across the country spinning the sailing disc in this competition, which we'll liken to Frisbee football. I guess ultimately the competition wrapping up Sunday. It does take talent today. In that win, yeah.
Back at the National Sports Center for the second half of action here at the National Sports Center. I'm Dan Webster along with Jason Seidler, and he's been helping out tremendously if you've been following this game to know that he knows these players quite well in the rivalry that's involved with this between these two clubs. They're meeting up for the second national championship in a row. We are entering the second half with Santa Barbara leading it by a score of 11-9.
Oh! A great layout D by Greg Husak. UCSB coming out very strong defensively out of the half. It's a strong showing there for Greg Husak, who has sprained his ankle earlier this morning.
Here's a replay that will...
The throw is up in the air, and from nowhere, Hollywood diving between two Stanford defenders. And UCSB now with the disc, looking to be the first team to capitalize and score on the first point out of the half. A play is called, UCSB with the disc. Greg Husak now with the disc, looking to advance the disc upfield. Greg dumps it back to Greg Tedeschi. Greg Tedeschi puts it up to James Studeris. James Studeris with the disc, looking to capitalize on the goal line. Stanford playing good D. Looks like they're stopping some of the breaks for UCSB. And it looks like UCSB comes out strong out of the half. A great upfield throw from James Studeris to Jim Regetz. And once again, UCSB is back to their three-point lead.
And the horn is out. That's the first time I've heard that one.
Yep. Got a little instant replay here. A great
Tail
grab
end of
from
it.
Jim Regetz.
So with that, we've got a score of 12-9.
And there's very few guys who can do that in a game like this, but both UCSB and Stanford are working very well amongst their leaders.
Nice high floating disc making its way right behind us.
All right, who's the lucky fan that gets to touch the game disc? Here's the lucky fan.
Just as we were rounding out the first half, we were talking about basically the type of funding that the colleges set forth in terms of how to finance a team to be able to come to tournaments like this and to regionals. How does Santa Barbara do that?
Well, you know, taking a look at this game, you're kind of looking at night and day here between the Black Tide and Stanford. Unfortunately, UCSB receives pretty minimal funding and any kind of monetary help from the college. Fortunately, the university gives a bit of incentive for the team, where university would actually match 50 cents to the dollar for each dollar that the Black Tide goes out and earns on their own as a team.
Really?
So there is an incentive to earn money, but for the most part, very little monetary support coming into the Black Tide. And all these guys have paid for everything they've had to get here. They've all paid for their uniforms, their plane tickets, their hotel rooms.
Wow.
And they do, you know, it's a big sacrifice for them, but obviously they know there's a big reward at the end of the line.
That's where you know you really got to love the game and maybe have a credit card.
Exactly. We definitely love credit here. I mean, it's here we have a very deep throw off the bat. And a very close grab.
Knocked away. Nice job by Scott Johnston just to get a fingertip on it to disrupt the play.
Seemed like Greg Husak made a really nice time jump, got his hand on it, couldn't quite hold on. Was floating, and Scott finished it off by knocking it to the ground. Greg Husak happens to be playing with a very badly sprained ankle that he just sprained this morning in the semifinals. But as many of us know, games like this really can bring out the best in people. And you really have a way of just kind of shutting the pain away. So there we had Mike Payne with a really nice inside-out throw and upfield caught by John Zalisk. And we just got to see an incredible interception and defensive play by Greg Husak. And here we have Adam Glimmy running deep with Jim Regitz on the disc.
Nice bat away.
And Stanford with an incredible D. UCSB a little frustrated.
Mike Chevalier was able to get back there to do that. I mean, and that's one of the things where the floater, in this case, hurt him.
Yes, absolutely. That was a great defensive catch-up. I think they call this guy Chevy, or it could be Chevy, or I've heard that before, and it looked like it slowed down a little there. He had to wait to get it. And here the disc is up. Same guy back with the disc here. And Hollywood on Mike Payne. Mike Payne with the throw to Justin Dang. Greg Tedeschi on the mark. We're playing a man defense and a pick was called. Everyone stops in the position they're at.
Once again, both these clubs champions of their respected pools entering today's action.
And here we have a very nice deep throw from Justin Dang up to John Zalisk. And Stanford capitalizes on the nice defense.
Two things I'm asking when I see that, and we'll see the replay on it. One, was it a break mark? And two, how did Zalisk get so open deep?
Well, it looked like it was an immediate play. It was a huck play designed directly off the check-in, and it was an isolation where they kept the Stanford man isolated with only his defender. He took a few steps inward. At the instant he planted inward, the Stanford guy almost blindly let it fly toward the end zone. And at that point, it's just a matter of putting a decent throw to the goal and having the man chase it down. As it turns out, that was a perfect throw to the end zone, and his man didn't have to do too much, but just go grab it. Here we got a little shot of the Stanford women, who are just fresh off their second national championship. The Stanford women played a very exciting game against Carleton Syzygy, and the game ended up 19-18 Stanford. And now you can see Stanford kind of enjoying their victory.
In fact, the woman that made the final catch, her name is Joy Chen. They call her Chewy. There she is, right there in the Spider-Man's outfit.
But nonetheless, she's comfortable.
Yep.
And here we go with Christian with the pool. Looks like it's coming a little short. UCSB's captain, Mike Hall, on the disc. And it looks like a zone.
And over right there.
And a very costly turnover here.
And it's right on the doorstep of the goal line.
Looks like Christian will pick the disc up. They're on the goal. And the disc is now in. Christian takes a few looks into the goal and then decides to swing it to the dump, who runs forward and catches the goal in.
That's Rob.
Looks like, yes, we had Christian Rob on the goal. It's like a high count. Christian not knowing what quite to do, and at the last moment his man comes running around. Nice jump, lands in the goal for the score.
Just gets that 1 foot in with the extra leap. Add another one for Stanford, and suddenly this is all of a sudden a game again. I mean, it has been so long, but I mean, you always had the sense that Black Tide was out in front, always 2 or 3 in front, but now it's down to I believe a 1-point game.
I believe we're at 12-11 right now.
One thing that I'm wondering about too is, I mean, in a close game like this, that might take a while. I mean, is there going to be a possible fatigue factor involved?
Well, that's a good question. Stanford and UCSB actually both have the same amount of players on their team. So this will definitely be an interesting day. Both of them are on California time, and as of, we're up at basically 5 a.m. their West Coast time this morning. So it's been a pretty long day for them, with all things considered. I think fatigue will definitely start to play a factor on the experienced veteran players who've been in quite a few points, but fortunately both teams are playing their veterans quite often. It seems like they'll be having a little war between themselves as the game comes down the line. So here we have Thunder, Dan Wachter with the disc, covered by another Dan from Stanford. The disc is tapped in. And a quick turnover right on the first throw. A little bit of a low throw there. The big man from UCSB couldn't get down. And once again, an unforced turnover, and Stanford has an opportunity here.
And the quarterback, per se.
Mike Payne.
Yep.
With a nice inside out. It's floating, and it looks like
caught, deflected.
Stanford off the rebound.
Matt Broadus will bring that one in. 3 separate players, 2 from Stanford went at it to no avail. There was a black-tied player that looked like he was all set with the position. And Broadus, sort of behind the action, decides coming up with it.
Here we get to see another shot. A decent throw that just kind of floated and didn't do what he wanted it to do. Floated. One guy touched it, sent it backward, and the lucky Stanford player ended up with it.
Tie game at 12.
Looks like UCSB is potentially called a timeout here. Yes, in fact, they have.
A chance to just try and break up the momentum that Stanford has occurred.
This is exactly what Stanford had done at the beginning of the game when UCSB jumped out to their three-point little run. And now Stanford has come back with their three-point run of their own. And we will see what happens next. Sometimes that's exactly what it's about. And remember, this is the last game of the season. And although these are the 2 best teams at this point, and it's a tie game right here, one team's season ends after this game and one's doesn't. So the team who's generally behind is fighting for their life, and they're really going to put together everything they got.
Well, this being about the 4th time that they've met in tournament competition, these 2 clubs are really going strong at it.
Yep. Here we have a dump swing. An excellent fake by Mike Hall. Got his defender to jump and dive through the air. Great grab here by Ben Smith. Ben Smith with a wide open Jim Reggets in the goal. And the black tie capitalizes.
Well, somehow you'd think there was a miscommunication in defense in the back end on that one.
Absolutely. Looks like Stanford got confused, doubled up on one of the players they thought the initial pass would go to. And it ended up with second-year standout Ben Smith with a perfect throw up the line to fifth-year senior, an exceptional ultimate player, Jim Reggets. A beautiful throw.
By a score of 13-12 against Stanford University. Stanford, the #1 ranked team in the nation, entering.
And here we go. We have Jim Reggets pulling downfield. Justin Deng picking up the disc. Mike Payne at his side.
And now here's a switch. They're doing a zone D with the wind on the backside of the offense.
And this is one of the strategies we talked about earlier, where UCSB is counting on is they can get Stanford to throw a good amount of throws here in the wind. They'll probably have a really good chance of getting Stanford to maybe make an error. Maybe the wind will float a pass up. And you know, they're hoping to capitalize on basically an errant pass. Like I said, though, it's a risky defense because you do leave a man kind of isolated downfield. Here we have Rob on the disc. Justin Deng, one of their smoother throwers on Stanford. He's got an excellent backhand and a very nice forehand, as we just saw. And
right
there we have a very nice crossfield pass.
And that was Mike Chevalier
with the catch, and I believe that was Justin Deng with the throw. And here we get a chance to see it again.
Oh, actually, that's Alan Young with the throw. He got it from Deng and then made that throw. So just like that, we've got a 13-13 game. And you know, if this keeps up, once we start hitting 18s and 19s, the atmosphere around here is not going to be so quite laissez-faire.
Something I do at this point to change it up is maybe take those top defenders and actually put them on the men that are touching the disc. If you can shut down a man, like if you can basically keep the disc out of Mike Payne's hands or Justin Deng, Stanford's offense really breaks down. They really rely on those guys quite a bit, where UCSB has a pretty widespread offense. They do have some superstars, but they definitely have quite a few players who can do they have the whole arsenal. There we had James Studeris with a quick pass up to Adam Glimmy. James Studeris, the man with the disc, absolutely has the best disc skills probably on the field here right now. He is definitely one of these offensive standouts that has incredible layouts and is a man with a specialty for foot blocking and hand blocking, very long arms and legs. So poses to be an incredible threat on defense as well as offense. James is the type of handler who can pretty much get the disc whenever he wants, and he definitely throws scores and he scores goals. James was the captain of the Black Tide last year, and like I said before, he will provide a lot of the confidence and support for the Black Tide.
Swinging it back to swing it around, trying to move forward that way.
And there they go. Jim Regetz comes around to Mike Hall. Mike Hall with the disc, back to Jim. Jim with the disc, puts it up to Greg Tedeschi. Quick flip up to Ben Smith. Ben Smith to Adam Glimmy. Adam Glimmy from his knees up to Greg Tedeschi. Greg Tedeschi with the disc on the goal line. Looks like he's taking his time there. And a timeout was called. Greg Tedeschi will be picking up the disc here as soon as Stanford is ready on defense. And here we go, Mike Payne on the D. And we have Jim Regetz to Mike Hall. Mike Hall, they swing the disc back out. A pick was called.
Pick was called.
Looks like UCSB had set up a dump swing type of play off that to get the disc kind of back toward the middle of the field, see if they could switch the mark on Stanford halfway between. And Stanford was on it, playing good D, and a pick unfortunately stopped the play. And there we have a great throw and goal from Captain Mike Hall to stand out Adam Glimmy.
Adam, I noticed Adam, he cut towards the backhand side and then just sort of sifted his way through a maze of bodies and came out, and the defender just never really took it seriously enough.
Here we have our replay. You can see him coming around. He just was kind of going. The offensive player saw him, put it out in front, and he just went and got it.
And the one up now goes to Santa Barbara on this.
So we've now had a potential, we've gone from a lead to a tie now 4 times in this game. And we're looking to see a lot more of that as the game continues. Got a really exciting game on our hands here.
Santa Barbara now with the 1-point lead there.
And Stanford gives the hand. Here we go.
Big wavering pull brought down by Rob.
Over to Justin. Looks like, here we go, and they now have Hollywood on Mike Hall. And the players are discussing something.
And the one in the pants that we were referring to earlier is Mike Laub, number 4 for Stanford.
Mike
is
Laub,
now into the game.
Thank you. Justin Deng, the man with the disc right now, is definitely one of Stanford's top deep throwers. He and Mike Payne throw the majority of all of their deep throws. This kid Justin here has got excellent form. He's more of a backhand specialist, but you always got to be ready for him to put it in a situation like this.
Well, I've seen him twice in this game, down in the on the right-hand side near the goal line of the opponent. He's gone with sort of the half-moon version type of toss.
Oh, here we go. An unforced turnover here by Stanford University. Justin Deng threw it, and it seemed to just bounce right out of the hand of Alex. Couldn't quite grab on it there. So we have James Studeris coming to the disc with Rob playing D. And James with the disc, and something has been called. As the players discuss it, try to come to a civil solution, the rest of the teammates wait patiently to hear what the news will be.
Something like that. I mean, he didn't seem to bump him or anything, so I'm wondering if it's a quick count. Once again, the person handling the disc has roughly a count of 10 per the defender's count in order to get rid of the disc.
Look for James here to do something interesting with the disc, maybe.
Oh.
Right out of the fingertips.
Yep, it was slightly behind. The wind was knocking it down as well, but a nice gallant attempt nonetheless. But it's going to go back to Stanford and an opportunity to tie this thing up.
Looks like the Stanford player, for some reason, wants to check the disc. I don't think it was tacoed or mashed, but sometimes the players just like to make sure it's in perfect flying condition. Sometimes they like to just catch an extra second of breather. Looks like Justin's with the disc here, and they're looking like they want to use Justin for the deep throw, and I'm not sure what they did there, but excellent defense by UCSB. A no look with his back to the disc. In a case like that, you heard the entire sidelines yell the up call. At that point, the UCSB player knows when he hears his name, his arms must be in the air because the disc is near his body. And that's one of the ways that teams communicate with each other. They use calls like up or air, and that means the disc is flying and somewhere near you. So here we go once again. We got Adam Glimmy up to Mike Hall. Mike Hall's got the disc. And once again,
the Stanford guy this time, Chevy, did that on the block, or at least he disrupted the play to the point where it was not most accessible in the catch. Scott Johnson now brings it up.
And Greg Tedeschi's on Mike Payne. Greg Tedeschi's one of the top runners on UCSB. He has just an amazing amount of endurance. He's a distance runner who's turned into an ultimate player. And here we go, another poor throw. We've seen quite a few poor throws in this series. And it's turned into a bit of a little huck fest here. But UCSB looks a little icier at the moment.
That could be a fatigue factor, you'd think.
Definitely. We were talking about that earlier. As this happens, the game, you see, will slow down a little as far as the throw perfection. There we go, an excellent cross-field throw from Greg Husak. And the score, a rookie with his first goal thrown in the national championship to a second-year player, Ben Smith. And after a long, hard-fought point on both teams, UCSB scores to take back the lead. Here we have, very close, Stanford defender almost on the goal, but Ben Smith has no problem reeling it in.
And with that, 15-13, as you see one of our camera people there helping out, volunteering in terms of bringing you coverage of today's action from the National Sports Center. University of California, Santa Barbara, UCSB 15, Stanford 13. Dan Webster along with Jason Seidler. And we're here having a good time, just enjoying some sun.
The facilities here are quite outstanding, and there are very few places in the country that have this many fields in this great a condition that can handle the rain and dry off really well. Here we go, back into the play. UCSB with a great pull. Stanford picks it up immediately. Rob up to Christian. Christian's got the disc. UCSB looks like they're playing some man defense right now.
The one thing that I noticed with Christian, when he handles the disc, he doesn't move it right away, or at least he doesn't like to. He likes to size up the defense before he makes his move.
He definitely takes that look around. If you watch him, instead of actually making fakes, he's actually just kind of turning his head left and right and kind of checking out what's going on. If he doesn't like what he sees, he's definitely a director of traffic out there. And he will tell people during the game where to go and where to be. Christian's definitely an on and off field leader for the Black Tide. I'm sorry, for Stanford, and he always poses real problems for the Black Tide.
That Rob Nail coming down, picking up the
great grab,
the blader off the blades of the grass.
And here we have a little forced middle going on here. We had a nice dump back to Christian. Now we're back forced sideline, and we got.
You can just almost sense that Payne wants to throw that hammer again.
Yeah, you see him out here, and you can't help but wonder, when's it going to come out? So Stanford being pretty patient here, swinging it across. There's definitely not a lot of movement in the field right now. The players definitely could be getting tired. The disc is now up. Oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh.
From the ground, Stanford reaches up from nowhere.
We might have a contest of some sort here.
Oh yes, it was definitely a throw put up at a 10 count, so there's a huge chance here that there was a stall called. Here we got the instant replay. We've got the disc up over UCSB. Stanford gets his hand on it, alters the path, and the same guy reaches out and makes the grab.
I'm trying to think who that was. I think that was John Zelisk.
Yes, that was. And yes, it looks like it was a stall. Not quite sure, but it's going to be close regardless.
Well, we've got 4 observers now down in that area, so.
Yeah, I imagine with such a throw at that point on the goal line that it either was at a 9 or a 10 count to put something just kind of throwing it up in the air like that up for grabs. So it'll be an interesting call, and it looks like Stanford got the call.
And with that, Stanford pulls back within 1 on the self-deflective bounce off the turf.
Back to yourself, reach up and pull it down, and wipe the sweat off your brow. And the disc is up. Very nice pull from Stanford. Jim Reget's on the disc. Jim Reget's up to Mike Hall. Mike Hall with the disc. Drops it to James Studeris. James Studeris with the disc. Stanford has them pretty well trapped in the goal right now. James with a little left-handed quick throw back.
Now this is just a straight cup, it looks like.
Yes.
Which invites this type of throw.
Exactly. We had a decent position there on the throw. It looked like the person who threw it got hacked on the throw. I think both players are okay here. Just wanted to stop play, check themselves for a moment. And here we go again. Oh,
Deflected.
wow. And we had an amazing hand block from Jim Reget's, who then dives out and smacks the disc to the ground for, in fact, almost a double defensive play who guarantees. Okay, we have another little discussion. Looks like a lot of Stanford guys were surrounding the disc. Potentially a double team. Maybe not. We will see soon. Looks like the call is being upheld. Looks like it was a double team. UCSB with the disc now.
And the count getting high there.
And James had to put up a hammer there. A little desperation throw. And UCSB's back on playing defense. Got Adam Glimmy on the disc. Mike Hall playing great defense against Dan. Oh my God, and again.
Johnston, who made the defensive effort, now he comes up with an offensive effort, and the tie goes to the offense.
Oh, an amazing defense again by UCSB, reaching out of nowhere, stopping what looked like the sure goal from Stanford. Once again, putting them on the goal line. Stanford coming out on D again.
Is that Husek?
No, that was Dan Wachter, known as Thunder Dan.
Thunder Dan.
He is a player who, not surprisingly, got that with his large, muscular arm. He by far has probably the deepest throw on UCSB's team, and very well known for his deep throws. So we'll see what happens here. UCSB back with the disc on the goal line. Swinging it around, taking their time, doing a good job of working the disc. UCSB now working it, working the zone. We have Greg Husak now with the disc, moving it upfield to Jim Reget's. Jim Reget's back to Greg Husak. Greg Husak's going to swing it around. No, he changes his direction, goes back to Jim Reget's. Jim Reget's, a little scoober back to Greg Husak, who swings it across the field to James Studeris. James always looking to do something with the disc, swings it right back to Hollywood. Hollywood keeps it moving. The Black Tide is slowly advancing the disc by simply swinging it back and forth across the field.
And a collision going after a floater.
A strip call there. It looks like Justin may have hurt himself.
Well, now this could be a move where someone's looking to make a fake cut in and then dart out to the goal or out to the sideline. Oh.
And a very costly turn here for UCSB at the goal line. And UCSB, oh, just immediately, Stanford just goes deep for the huck.
Scott Justin, yes. Not in the end zone, but looking to hit Whitaker.
An incredible grab there by the goal line.
And they were wondering downfield if Mike Payne had called anything, like a foul or something to negate it, but Mike Payne said no.
Looks like Mike Payne actually caught James in the face with his follow-through. Wow, just a fingertip grab there. Outstanding grab, great tournament to do so. And right on into Mike Whitaker for the goal.
And just like that, Stanford is back on the board again. And if I'm not mistaken, has tied it up 15-15. They have. So, well, 6 points for each side to go.
And I tell you, at this point, it really seems like anyone's game. It's pretty amazing. We've had the majority are actually more the parents, supporters of the kids, and we've had an amazing turnout in that fact. And probably 7 or 8 of the teammates' parents are here, including myself and my father, who came to check everything out. And other than that, we have a few alumni. We have one alumnus here who was part of the original three-peat, the first ever back in 1988, 89, and 90, when the Black Tide first took the first ever 3 championships. So that's pretty much it. On the other hand, now Stanford has quite a few of their alumni here. They actually can field an entire team of alumni. They have 7 or 8 of them here. And of course, they have their entire women's team here. So I give the advantage there to Stanford as far as support goes.
But where it counts is the point column, and right now they're dead even at 15 with the downwind going to the Black Tide right now.
And Black Tide is just moving the disc right now. A quick strip was called.
And they just want to start it up right away.
Yep.
They don't want to hang on to it for any longer than a 2 count.
No, and they're really keeping Stanford guessing by doing that. Looks like they're slowly moving it upfield. Taking their time there. A lot of popping inside the cup. A lot of really good work by Greg Tedeschi. Greg Tedeschi's the guy I mentioned earlier, who's just an absolute runner by nature. He once ran a half a marathon and then showed up for practice an hour later, only to practice for 3.5 more hours. And at the end of practice, he said, "Sorry I was running slow, guys, today, but I ran a half marathon before I came to practice," just to inform you. So just outstanding endurance, which makes him a lethal player in Ultimate because he really can just run as much as he wants to run. And we have Mike Hall swinging it to Jim Regitz, who has a good fake and goes right back, really keeping Stanford moving. Nice grab there by Jim.
And there's the first.
And there's the upfield throw.
But a call made.
I'm not sure what the call is. Probably a travel call.
I noticed Hall when he had it. He seemed to took a stumble step.
He seemed to stumble. It didn't quite seem like he traveled. When he actually threw the throw, he was standing still. And here we have the result.
And the result, Alex Young with one of his infamous many blocks in this tournament. Really, it's about his only first block of today's action, but in pool play, he was amassing blocks at a rate of about at least 2 per game.
And once again, Stanford has called a timeout. They look about 15 yards out from the goal.
And everyone's congregating out into that middle area now.
And it definitely seems like a group effort here on Stanford's part. The risk has now been called since this point's been tapped in. And wow, a foot block pulled out from James Studeris. As we know, he is so deadly. James Studeris once again shows why, with almost the no look and no hesitation, pulls his foot up.
And that's kind of devastating. I mean, a foot block, because it's just not expected. Hand block, it's like, oh, great D. A foot block, it's like, geez.
Yeah, just outstanding, outstanding. Nice inside out there from Thunder Dan Walker.
Going for the corner and getting it.
Once again, the score from Greg Tedeschi to Adam Glimmy. And you see Stanford, Santa Barbara now running out onto the field to congratulate their guys, just as Stanford did the point before.
And a chance to look at that.
So now, be careful who you're talking to.
What's your name?
Dan Webster with Jason Seidler here at the National Sports Center. Jason wearing his Black Tide shirt, the alumni of Black Tide.
There's quite a bit of tradition following. These shirts have been around since the National Championships have created. Definitely one of the more creative shirts that you'll see at Nationals, but it's the same old shirt. And it's very well known, and when you see someone wearing it, you'll know they're from Santa Barbara. We actually got an offer at the beginning of this game. Stanford wanted to put our jerseys on the line for the game. A side bet, but unfortunately we denied them. Okay, so the pool is back up. Mike Payne immediately putting it up. A nice huck into the end zone.
John Zalisk pulls it in. You'd almost think that was too designed.
Yeah, they basically picked the mismatch there. They took one of Stanford's great deeps, one of their taller guys, good jumper, and they put him against Santa Barbara's littlest handler, or one of their fastest.
Zalisk was not only able to get position on the play, but you know, he also had height and a little bit of jumping ability where he was timed. There's the position, there's the jump.
The position and the jump, and Mike Hall, although an incredible bid, just a little bit too late.
You almost think if they were going the other way where it was against the wind, it would have been caught up. But
Absolutely.
here, the disc keeps going.
Just keeps sailing downwind. So once again, we're all tied up at 6 teams. An unbelievable game as it unfolds here.
I think we might be saying the thing like 17s, 18s.
We'll let you, the athletic fans, try to figure out what world-famous dominant basketball player that is.
And we'll give you a hint. That world-famous basketball player has a big shoe contract.
And I believe he has the same first name as the man pooling.
Oh my gosh.
Looks like actually though it's a very low pool. It gives UCSB a great chance to capitalize here.
Oh. You know, at first that toss looked like it was all right, but it just floated too much.
Floated, yep.
And that type of toss where the disc actually floats upside down is called what?
That's called, we call that a scoober.
A scoober.
They call it something else here on the East Coast, so it's a different throw. It's basically that upside down throw that comes off your fingertips. And we have a costly turn again, coming right back here to UCSB.
So a return favor allows UCSB to...
Yes, and once again, they come right back with the same throw. They complete it. That's definitely UCSB style. If it doesn't work, try it right on back at them, force it right back into them. And here we go with just an unbelievable grab. The layout grab once again by Jim Regetz from none other than James Studeris. The Stanford man right on his back, but was able to extend out and bring it in for another outstanding grab. Here we got the replay. As he puts it out, James gets it, puts the inside out, and fully extended Jim Regetz brings back the 1-point lead.
I think there's about 8 layout scores that we've seen. Yeah.
This has just been an amazing amount of great cabs. Both these teams seem to have a great understanding of where the sideline is at all times. They all know exactly where is the in and where's the out, when to drag their toes and when to just let it fly.
So with that, we say 17 to 16.
17 to 16 now. And just to give you a little insider, I just heard a little inside information that I believe the time cap will be going on in about 10 minutes. So here we go. Get another shot on that outstanding grab here in a moment. James with the throw, puts the inside out through the Stanford players. And as you can see, it speaks for itself.
Jason's beside me here just saying, wow.
Sometimes it's just nice to be the spectator. You talk about the times you used to do that too.
I remember when I used to do that all the time. But of course, it's always nice to have a nice carpet of a field to be doing this in. I mean, to never have to fear, you know, scrapes and whatnot, and still be able to just bounce right up and know that all it was a great catch.
So it looks like UCSB, here they come down again, maybe switching up the defense a little bit, trying to catch Stanford off guard, see what happens when they put a downwind zone on them. Once again, they're counting on Stanford, just making a lot of passes here, and the defense is based on Stanford must be patient, and there you go. So finally the defense is turns the way they planned it. There we have the nice little lefty from James. James not only throws with his right hand, but can also throw with his left.
And he does. He throws with the left, and it confused the defender.
It is absolutely confusing as a defender because he always maintains his left pivot foot as if he was a right-handed thrower, but in a moment's notice can switch hands and put a lefty throw up. It's almost impossible to defend. Okay, so we just got the call that that score put the Black Tide up 18-16.
So if the cap is on at this point in time, the final score is going to be 20 to something.
And with a 2-point lead, you got to look for Stanford to come out hungry.
Yeah, they're going to have to. They got to score twice as many points.
This is Stanford.
Watch this. He's set up to throw right-handed.
Oh no, that was just the goal from Husak to Tedeschi. So we didn't quite catch that change left-handed throw. So here we are at 18-16. Stanford has Greg Husak, Ben Smith, Mike Hall, Greg Tedeschi, Jim Regitz, looks like, and Thunder Dan Wachter, and James Studeris in the lineup. Over on Stanford's end, looks like we have Rob. It looks like we have Alex. It looks like we have Scott, Christian. Looks like we have Justin Deng. And on the end there is Mike Lobb.
And the cap now is being noted over on the Stanford side of the field. The time cap, what it simply means is that the game has entered its length of time in which they're going to allow it to play, so they need to finish it up. So what they're going to do is they add 2 points to the final score will now be 20 to something, based on the fact that at the time cap, the team leading in this scenario had 18 points. So it's the team who is leading plus 2, and that will be the top score of the final score, no matter if the team leading retains its lead or not.
Correct.
As for Stanford, though, they've got a long way to come back. They've got 4 points they have to score to Santa Barbara's 2, and at no point in time has either team recently been able to do it. Stanford has not been able to do it ever in this contest, and the only time it's really ever occurred is on 2 occasions for Santa Barbara. A 3-0 lead, and then a jump out to where they went 7-4.
I believe there was a foul in the throw regardless, so whether Justin has that or not, I think Christian's going to get another shot at it. Looks like James caught him. I don't know if it's been called yet. But James got pretty long legs. That's why he's so good at those blocks. And it's being decided right now. They're debating right now. It'll be interesting to see how they call it.
Yeah, they seem to be debating more Justin Deng at this point in time.
Yeah, typically in a time like this, I mean, the best thing to do is give it back to Christian. Stanford's really not going to lose anything here. Christian's got amazing throws, and you know, Stanford's going to be caught on top here.
So now they're saying that the count is going back to 0 at this point in time.
And James Studeris back on the mark. Ben Smith on Justin Deng. Jim Regitz over there on Mike. We got Mike Hall on here on Rob. And it looks like a
tip play.
And again, Stanford University.
And guess who comes up with it for the set? Oh, it was Jason Zalis that came down with it one time before. This time it was Scott Johnston.
And once again, Stanford catching all of those floating passes, catching each and every break that comes by their way.
I mean, you'd almost think that they're throwing it up on purpose. If a guy doesn't have it, at least make a jab for it, and hopefully someone is behind him.
So once again,
I mean, Christian is off balance when he's making that throw.
Quick break the mark. The wind catches it, floats. UCSB actually gets his hand on it. An amazing grab. He misses the disc off his chest and pulls it in for the catch.
That's, I think, number 9 in terms of big layouts today.
And that's about, I believe that's the 5th grab now that UCSB has actually macked, gotten the D on, and Stanford has come up with. Stanford is just really sticking with it. Definitely has, there we go, that's a misplaced score. It's actually now 18 to 17.
18 to 17 is the score. And I told you how nearing crunch time the intensity is going to pick up. Well, we're entering it.
Yep.
Well, we got the fire hose ready in case we have to hose you down, Jason. Getting all excited here.
Well, it's a matter of this right here. We pretty much got a minimum of, there's only going to be a maximum of 4 more points played in this year's college series. And I'd say within about 10 or 15 minutes, we're going to have a national champion. I must say at this point, both these teams have showed an incredible amount of heart and have made this quite an exciting game for all the fans. I know the past 2 years, UCSB has taken their other opponent out pretty quick and pretty early in the games, and per se maybe hasn't been so exciting, and UCSB had some lopsided wins, but Stanford is showing amazing heart here, and UCSB will never give up, so this is going to be quite a battle to the end here.
The final 4 points, or up to 4 points, of the College National Championships is underway.
And here we go. James Suderis picking up the disc. Covered by Mike Whitaker. James swings it right up to Hollywood.
That was a nice
Very
little pop.
Smoothly, yes. Just kind of worked it right up there. And James, once again, swings it right through to Hollywood. James once again switching out, going lefty there, just keeping the safe throw. Adam Glimmy moving it. Stanford with a great bid by Christian. UCSB is now moving the disc. They're now out of the goal. Looks like Stanford's cup is definitely having problems containing the zone. As usual, UCSB is moving the disc as often as possible. James has the disc and just had an excellent, excellent throw up to Adam Glimmy.
And you almost sense that he knew it was going to be open for that type of throw.
And cross field, Adam Glimmy to Ben Smith. Ben Smith to Greg Husak. Oh.
Right there at the end line.
On the goal line, right out of Mike Hall's fingertips.
Yeah, it almost seemed he got just like a couple of fingertips right on it.
So here we're going to have Mike Payne, as usual, picking up the disc for Stanford University, coming up with Greg Husak as his defender. These guys have played against each other for the past 4 years themselves, know each other very well, they know their breaks and throws. I believe they're checking the disc again, see if it's up to Mike's standards. We'll see if Mike gives it the okay. Mike looks like he's working the disc a little and seems happy with it. And he's calling the offense out for his team.
Going long. Oh, that time Zalis actually touched the disc first, but didn't have control of it.
And James Suderis just with the clutch D. Oh, again.
A 1-on-4.
And the black tie puts that away and looks to play some more D here. So here we go. We have Mike Hall on Dan. We have Mike Payne again.
This time going for Peter Jewett, and this time it was underthrown.
Once again underthrown, but this time UCSB comes back again, and Mike Payne hucks it away. Mike Payne, I'm not quite sure why Mike is just kind of slinging it away like that. Stanford seems pretty confident right now. I mean, they're definitely working it downfield. They have some really solid offensive players.
You know, I'm wondering if Mike Payne's beginning to feel tired. I noticed that he's playing a lot of cup.
Yes, and here we go on this grab, an amazing stop, and just almost turned and jumped himself backwards to get that defense.
But back to that point, Mike Payne, he's been playing a lot of cup on the zone, and then he comes back and he's playing, you know, the handler.
Right.
That's a lot of two-way going on here.
I would definitely say that those deep throws are a sure sign of him getting pretty tired.
Well, not just a matter of the deep throw, but how he's doing it, too.
Right.
He's not getting any of his legs in there anymore.
Definitely. Those throws are not flying like they used to be, and this is exactly what we talked about a few minutes ago.
And discussion.
So here we go, a little discussion on the play here. Looks like Stanford's unhappy with how quick James picked up the disc and went. Maybe wasn't tapped in. The players are agreeing on some kind of resolution here. Looks like the disc stays, so James Suderis got the call. Adam Glimmy with the disc, puts it in. Mike Hall, an outstanding grab through traffic, probably tacoed the disc again.
Wally Tsang also landed on him as well, right at that point of where the disc hit. Matter of a couple of bodies falling on the disc that time. So now they're just looking for a new disc to send out there.
You'd think at the national championship tournament
someone's got to have a disc.
Have a brand new disc somewhere. Saw a few hundred over at the table they're selling them from. And here we go. We're back in play. James Suderis, quick throw up to Jim Regitz. Jim Regitz working the disc, moving it up. Back to James, an excellent break. Jim Regitz is a pretty accomplished thrower, and obviously displayed his skills there as Jim Regitz broke that three-man cup as if they weren't really even guarding him. Once again, a quick swing off the line. James to Jim, to Greg, to Ben. And the disc is being swung. UCSB is pretty patient here. They're taking their time with the disc. They're about a third of the way downfield. They're definitely losing a little ground here. Jim Regitz, back to James Suderis, back to Ben. Great movement here.
They are, and they're really working. They're working those Ds to tire them out.
And here we go now. We got back to Hollywood. Up to Ben Smith. And now we got Ben. Oh, back to Hollywood. A great grab by Hollywood. Incredible focus at this point in the game. He's played almost every point with a sprained ankle. Beautiful swing from James. Back to Jim. Jim swings it up to Dan. Dan's in a good position in the middle of the field here.
And the score.
And UCSB works it down after a very long point with quite a few turnovers, and wins that little battle of attrition. But we got a few more here coming.
It looked like Wally Tsang made the diving attempt there on that throw, and to no avail.
No.
Here it is.
And once again, we have a quick throw from Dan cross field. He switches the mark. Greg to Hollywood, Hollywood to Mike Hall, and you can see the celebration begin.
One more point to go. 19-17. Once again, this game is in a time cap right now. Generally, they would play it to 21, but they've reached a time cap portion. And so when that occurred, UCSB was leading 18-16.
Correct.
And they forced the time cap then to make the final score become 20 to whatever. And right now, Black Tide of California, Santa Barbara. Jason's getting a little excited, baby.
I'm containing myself here.
Well, I mean, we got to be honest. I mean, myself, Dan Webster, along with Jason, I mean, we asked Jason to help out. He knows the players here, and he's doing us a great favor, folks, in being able to supply the play-by-play and the names and helping out and a lot of the analogies. So, I mean, I'm more than happy to be backseat on this, and you know, I can guarantee that if Santa Barbara gets that next point here and wins it, by all means, just say something positive and go out and celebrate.
Well, thanks a lot. I completely appreciate that, because I'm sure that's what's going to happen. This headset's probably going to come flying off, but we'll keep here, and we'll make sure that the commentating goes through to the end regardless. I think this game's definitely still up in the air at the moment, and we'll see what happens.
All right.
But thank you.
Sure.
I'll tell you, it's just an incredible game to be watching. It's just to be here.
And so, with Black Tide only needing one more point.
Jim Regitz with another one of those outstanding blading pulls. And Chevy picks it straight up. We got Christian right on the disc, who quickly snaps it over to Mike Payne. Mike Payne looking for the forehand, goes back. Hollywood's forcing him backhand here. Looks like a great break the mark by Mike Payne. Nice little bidding D there by Ben. Looks like we're on a forced middle right here.
Alex Young gets it back to Payne.
Mike Payne, he's looking backhand. He looks like he's got only backhand.
Oh, what a dive.
And Jim Regis just comes through with one of the biggest Ds of this game. I'm not quite sure where Jim Regis came from there, and it looked like Justin Dang had the disc, no problem there. Mike Payne just threw that out there a little too casually, and just left it wide open there for UCSB. So here we're going to have James Studeris, definitely leading the Black Tide with by far throwing the most goals in this tournament. We have Thunder Dan Wachter on the field, followed by Mike Hall and Greg Husak, and a timeout was called.
Timeout is called.
Not a bad call. Looks like Stanford definitely played some great D off the point. UCSB couldn't get anything started from the beginning, and it results in another timeout.
As for the men, well, you know, the men had their first three-peat, as you mentioned, in the late 70s?
Late 80s. So it was 1988, 89, and 90 that the Black Tide became the first team in collegiate ultimate to win 3 straight. And ECU almost pulled it off, as they won 2 4 years back. But unfortunately, it was not surprisingly UCSB who came out to make sure that nobody stole the glorified three-peat position. And here we're at a pretty historical point in ultimate. UCSB definitely has a chance here to leave their mark forever. And he gets a foot block, but holds the disc. And here we have Hollywood with the disc. And it's over. Adam Gloomy catches the pass from Greg Husak. UCSB wins the 1998 Ultimate Collegiate National Championship to make it 3 straight championships for the 2nd time ever in collegiate ultimate. This is an amazing moment right now here in Black Tide and ultimate history. The final score comes down at 20-18. UC Santa Barbara Black Tide over Stanford Blood, just resulting in an amazing game. Finished up, played with great spirit, and here you're seeing it all happen.
Well, the three-peat, back to the Black Tide. They did it in the early 80s or late 80s. They're beginning to do it in the mid to late 90s. And Jason, I want to thank you very much, man. Jason Seidler, I know he's just chomping at the bit to join into that huddle out there. So I want to thank you very much for the commentary, for the names and analogy and stuff. And by all means, I can finish it out from here if you're ready to jump in.
Yeah, I think I'm going to give him. We'll give him a moment here to shake hands as we kind of shake hands. This was a really cool experience. It was nice giving respect to all these guys from Stanford and UCSB because they were by far the 2 best teams in the country, and they showed it today by fighting it to the last few points.
A couple of California schools who have met each other 3 previous times before today. And once again, here's the highlight of championship point.
The final throw from captain Greg Husak, looking to his co-captain. Looks like it went by, actually may not have been intended. Co-captain makes a great bid, and there in the back is Adam Glimmy to pick it up for the final score. UCSB 20, Stanford Blood 18. Wow.
Adam Glimmy enjoying himself.
And in fact, that's the same guy who missed 1 or 2 of those in the game right at his fingertips. And that's quite a way to bring it back and finish it all off. So here we go. And
20-18 the final score, and the 1998 College Championships are in the book. The women go to Stanford. The men in the three-peat go to University of California, Santa Barbara Black Tide by a final score of 20-18. Dan Webster along with Jason Seidler. We want to thank you very much for participating and watching today's broadcast of the 1998 UPA College National Championships from the National Sports Center in Blaine, Minnesota. Once again, there you see it. UCSB 20, Stanford 18. So long, everyone.
And congratulations.